He started his first day as a janitor at a mental hospital, but on that very day, he met a girl who seemed pure and ethereal, like she didn't belong in such a place. Yet to his disappointment, she turned out to be a patient, so he could only walk away in silence. The janitor never imagined that this barefoot girl would completely change his life. That night after work, Shay happened to pass by a hospital room when he suddenly heard a girl's desperate cry for help coming from inside. Without a moment of hesitation, he rushed in and saw an attendant mistreating the girl.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I didn't mean to cause any trouble.
You didn't do anything wrong. The guy's a freak. He was gonna hurt you.
But he's a doctor.
No, he's not a doctor. Now listen to me. You gotta protect yourself in here, okay?
You're the mopping man.
Yeah, I'm Jay. Be careful.
After calming her down, Shay hurriedly left the hospital, while the girl remained lost in the warmth of his kindness, unable to recover from it for a long time. Not long after Jay walked away, the girl secretly followed him.
What? You can't leave your patient.
I don't like it here.
Shay didn't want to bring along a burden, but during their brief conversation, he realized she didn't act like the other patients at all, so he asked why she wasn't wearing shoes.
They hurt my feet.
Shay sighed to himself, thinking he was overreacting, and quickly told her to go back to the hospital, but just then the girl began to breathe heavily, clearly in distress. Startled, Shay tried to calm her down, then handed her some money for the trip home before turning to leave. But he only made it a few steps before stopping, looking at her expectant yet lost expression. His heart softened. He couldn't just leave her there. He decided to contact her family, only to find out she had no one, and as he stood there unsure of what to do, a daring thought flashed through his mind. Wasn't this the perfect chance to have a girlfriend? Shay had once been a typical playboy, the spoiled son of a wealthy family, but after wasting his days in nightlife and luxury, his father finally had enough, froze all his accounts, and threw him out to face the real world. Shay didn't change his ways. Instead, he fell deep into debt, and when the creditors came knocking, he fought them and ended up in jail, later being assigned to work at the mental hospital as community service. To get out of this mess and repay his debt, Shay decided to ask his father for help, using his younger brother's wedding as an excuse to go home. But his father agreed only on one condition: he had to bring a girlfriend with him. Now, looking at the beautiful girl before him, Shay figured she might just help him handle his strict father. Although Daisy's mental state worried him, he thought if she stayed quiet enough, they could get through it. But on their flight, things didn't go as planned. Daisy, flying for the first time, caused quite a stir. She locked herself in the restroom because she couldn't figure out how to use the toilet, and later sneaked into first class to eat someone else's food while Jay was napping. A flight attendant soon noticed Daisy's strange behavior.
Can we pay for them now?
No, we can't pay for them now.
What's wrong with her?
Excuse me, there's nothing wrong with my girlfriend. Thank you.
Yet Daisy was touched by the care she received, and back at her seat, she couldn't help asking Jay about his gentle words.
Am I really your girlfriend?
Yeah, you're my girlfriend.
Shay brushed it off casually, but Daisy's innocent heart overflowed with joy, because her mother once told her that no one would ever accept a girl like her. After all the chaos, they finally arrived at their destination, and as Daisy gazed at the grand mansion before her, she felt a wave of unease. Shay whispered softly, "Just don't talk too much." When they entered the house, Shay's mother greeted them warmly, partly out of joy at seeing her son again, and partly for meeting her supposed daughter-in-law for the first time. But Daisy's bare feet left his mother puzzled, and just as she was about to ask, Shay cleverly changed the subject, drawing her attention away, while Daisy's sweet and gentle face completely won her over. Even Jay's father found her charming, never once noticing her bare feet. As night fell, the family dinner began, and Jay told his parents that he now held an important position at the hospital and needed funding for a new business venture. His father saw right through him and bluntly pointed out that Jay only wanted money, leaving Jay speechless and the room filled with awkward tension. At that crucial moment, Daisy stepped in.
He actually does have a plan, Jason. And it's a very good one. We just can't talk about it right now.
You're a part of this?
Yes.
Well, then let's talk about it later.
Yes, let's.
Her words were like a breeze that eased the rising conflict between father and son, and Jay couldn't help but admire her wit and courage. After dinner, Shay kindly escorted Daisy back to her room, and in that quiet moment, he found himself truly seeing her for the first time. He realized she glowed with a light unlike anyone else, and that light quietly planted a seed of emotion in his heart. After saying goodnight to Daisy, Shay went to speak with his father. Though the old man still doubted his business plan, Shay's smooth talk eventually persuaded him, and the father promised to send the money after the wedding. But the next morning, Shay's mother rushed to wake him, saying Daisy was acting strangely. She was cleaning the family's bathroom. Shay quickly found her, confusion written all over his face, and asked why she was doing that. He stared in disbelief, unable to understand why such a pure and innocent girl would do such a thing.
My mother said that this is how you earn love.
Oh, I thought you didn't have any family.
My mother is dead. Because I killed her.
Yet looking into her eyes, he saw no sign of deceit, and even as his brother's wedding began, Shay's heart remained restless. Then suddenly, Daisy appeared, catching everyone's attention. Her golden dress shimmered like the morning sun, elegant and radiant, and her delicate makeup sparkled like fresh dew. At that moment, Shay's heart was deeply moved by Daisy's incomparable beauty, and that beauty flowed through him like a gentle warmth, slowly melting his guarded heart. The wedding began, and a little girl was scattering flower petals for the bride and groom. But suddenly Daisy stood up, and to everyone's shock, she started picking the petals off the floor one by one. Shay noticed what she was doing, quickly walked over, gently took her hand, and led her back to her seat, patiently explaining the customs and manners of a wedding. However, Daisy's unusual behavior caught his father's attention, and during the evening ball, while Jay briefly stepped away, his father elegantly approached Daisy and invited her to dance. As they moved across the dance floor, he began to ask delicate yet piercing questions about her relationship with Jay and Jay's current situation, each question sharp as a blade, making Daisy's breathing grow heavier with every word.
Can't talk anymore.
Daisy, who are you?
By the time Daisy collapsed to the floor, Shay rushed over and carried her away, but his father followed close behind.
I'm a janitor in a mental hospital. It's part of my probation. She's a patient. That's perfect. Yeah, it's perfect. You okay?
You keep it.
Keep it!
Doesn't matter!
Leave it alone!
Doesn't matter!
Leave it alone, Dad!
It
Dad,
doesn't
leave it alone!
The truth is always cruel, like a sharp knife cutting through beautiful illusions, forcing people to face harsh reality. Once Jay and Daisy's relationship was exposed, their paths would inevitably diverge. Afterward, Shay stole his father's antique camper van and hit the road with Daisy, and to her, the journey felt like an adventure through a brand new world. Every corner of the van filling her with wonder and excitement, but beneath Daisy's innocent joy, Shay's mind was weighed down with fear and anxiety. He had already been assigned to the hospital as a janitor because of his past mistakes, and if people believed he had taken away a mentally ill girl, he would surely be arrested and sent to prison. After long hesitation, Shay brought Daisy to a public bus station, handed her some money, and softly told her that he needed to step away to make a call, asking her to wait for him there. Though Daisy sensed the hidden meaning behind his words, she chose to believe in him, convinced that Jay would never abandon her. So Daisy waited quietly, her heart full of faith and hope, while Jay simply walked away. Daisy stayed there alone, clutching the money tightly in her hand as it crumpled into a ball, enduring the stares of strangers and the chill of the night wind against her bare feet, still waiting for Jay. When a staff member approached to ask if she was all right, she forced a small, fragile smile.
My boyfriend is just making a phone call, so it shouldn't be long.
Okay, I'll be right over there. If you need any help, let me know, okay?
Meanwhile, Shay received a call from the hospital director, who told him about Daisy's past. She had been locked away by her mother since childhood, with no chance to learn how to communicate or live normally. Before things get worse, bring her back immediately, the director urged. Hanging up, Shay felt a deep wave of guilt and regret wash over him, and when he saw Daisy's shoes left behind in the car, her innocent smile flashed before his eyes.
God damn it!
Back at the station, Daisy looked up at the clock, her heart sinking as she realized Jay was not coming back. With tears in her eyes, she walked barefoot across the cold tiles to the front desk, softly asking for help to go home. And just then,
No more phone calls?
No. No more phone calls.
the next morning, sunlight filled the sky, warm and bright as if the whole world was wrapped in hope. This time, the two of them set out together again, but everything was different. Jay now carried the true weight of being her boyfriend. His eyes shone with determination. He was ready to protect Daisy and the fragile future they shared. At the service area, he held Daisy's hand tightly, afraid to lose her, and even spent his last bit of money just to see her smile as she shopped freely. But the news about a janitor taking a girl from a hospital had already spread everywhere, and the police had tracked them down. Faced with growing danger, they had no choice but to run.
I think that police officer is talking to us.
Daisy, unaware of the situation, even smiled and waved kindly at the police chasing them. At a crucial intersection, Jay made a sharp turn and managed to lose the patrol cars. By nightfall, they found a forest to hide in, but just as Jay drifted into sleep, Daisy suddenly shook him awake.
You make funny noises when you sleep. And there's a cop outside.
Startled, Jay jumped up and hid inside the van's restroom, while Daisy calmly opened the door to face the officers who wanted to search the vehicle. She cleverly spun a lie, saying her boyfriend had run into the woods. The police believed her and hurried into the forest, and Daisy quickly pulled the keys from their car and threw them far away. Jay was left speechless, utterly confused by what Daisy had just done.
Why?
Because if you go to jail, we can't be together.
Those words warmed Jay's heart, and for the first time, he began to doubt the director's judgment. How could someone so bright and charming possibly be a psychiatric patient? In the days that followed, they traveled leisurely under the gentle breeze by day, and at night they shared their thoughts in the van, accompanied by the soft chorus of cicadas. As time passed, Daisy's love for Jay grew deeper, even longing for a closer connection, but Jay only responded with a tender smile, a smile filled with affection and restraint. Once, he might have given in without hesitation, but now his feelings for Daisy had evolved into something pure and profound. Later, they arrived at a cheerful amusement park. Daisy screamed with excitement as they slid down together, laughed while tasting snacks she had never tried before in front of the towering Ferris wheel. And when they rode the carousel, it felt like stepping into a fairy tale as the horses spun slowly. All their worries and pain seemed to drift far away. After spending that day together, Daisy realized she could no longer live without Jay. With heartfelt emotion, she told him it was the most beautiful day of her life. And even the next morning, she was still lost in the happiness of yesterday. They continued driving down the open road, Daisy gazing out the window at the passing scenery, her heart filled with dreams and hope, imagining a brilliant future they would build together. However, fate always seems to play cruel tricks. Jay soon received another call from the hospital director, warning him to bring Daisy back immediately, or he would end up in prison. Left with no choice, Jay agreed to return Daisy to the hospital, but Daisy overheard everything. She misunderstood, believing that Jay was about to abandon her, and an overwhelming wave of despair consumed her heart. She returned to the van in silence, started the engine, and as tears streamed down her face like broken pearls, she cried and accused Jay of betrayal.
Everyone wanted to be my boyfriend! It's all just pretend!
I did it! Yes, I did! Of course I did!
Her emotions spiraled out of control, the vehicle speeding faster and faster until it crashed into a shipping container. Fortunately, Daisy was unharmed. Afterward, Jay decided to talk to her deeply, and Daisy began to share her story with her mother. Since she could remember, she had rarely stepped outside. As her mother always said, "It's only safe if you stay at home." Her mother often talked to herself, sometimes shouting suddenly for no reason, leaving Daisy frightened and confused. Then one night, her mother's screams echoed through the house until morning, and when Daisy finally gathered the courage to step out, she found her mother lying on the floor with no heartbeat. Hearing this, Jay was struck by realization Daisy had never hurt anyone. She was pure and innocent. The real patient had been her mother all along. and Daisy had mistakenly blamed herself for not saving her in time.
You didn't kill her.
Why do I have to go back to the hospital then?
I did want to take you back. I did. But now I don't. I really don't.
Am I gonna have to live at the hospital?
I don't know.
No one's gonna know where I am.
I'll know.
You're not gonna forget.
I'm not gonna forget.
Shay leaned in and placed a gentle kiss on her lips, a kiss filled with love and farewell. While the tears in Daisy's eyes spoke of longing and the unwillingness to accept fate, they gazed at each other, lost in their emotions, as if the world around them no longer existed. No words were needed, for the love and sorrow in their eyes said more than 1,000 sentences ever could. Eventually, Shay was sent to prison, but word soon reached his mother. Desperate to free him, she pleaded with her husband to help. Yet he hesitated, still resentful.
Jason, there was a time when you were as reckless as he is. And who bailed you out? Your father.
Her heartfelt words cut through his pride and touched something deep within him, and at last, the father chose to act, arranging for Jay's release. When Jay finished the paperwork and met his father's gaze from afar, all the walls between them seemed to crumble, leaving only understanding and forgiveness. Shay wasted no time and rushed to the hospital to find Daisy, but the director coldly refused to let him in, sternly warning that if he continued to interfere, he would be sent back to prison. But Jay was not a man to give up easily. To see Daisy again, he lay down on the railway tracks pretending to have a breakdown, forcing the police to send him to the mental hospital. But the director immediately saw through his act and rejected his admission. With no other option, Jay told the director everything about Daisy's mother. Shocked, the director admitted he couldn't rely on Jay's words alone. He would need a full investigation. Meanwhile, when Daisy learned Jay had also been brought to the hospital, a powerful urge filled her heart. She had to see him, but the doctors refused to let her leave.
No, I'm not having an attack! I just want to see my boyfriend!
After days of investigation, the director discovered the truth. Daisy's mother had suffered from schizophrenia and severe delusions. Since the illness could be hereditary, he decided Daisy must first undergo a psychological assessment before being released. A few days later, the director met with Daisy for a long conversation. He didn't ask directly about her mother, but instead about her feelings for Jay.
You like Mr. Wheeler?
I don't like him. I love him.
Have you ever been in love before, Daisy?
No.
How do you know you love Mr. Wheeler?
Have you ever been in love?
I was married, and we're divorced now.
You still love her. When it happens, you know it's not anything else.
Her sincere, heartfelt words unlocked something within him. Like a key opening a long-closed door, he let go of his bias and saw Daisy anew, a kind, beautiful girl who deserved freedom and love.
Thank you.
On the day she left the hospital, Daisy wore the floral dress she had once worn at the amusement park, held a bouquet of fresh flowers in her hands, and walked barefoot out of the ward. At the corner of the hallway, she finally saw the man she had longed for day and night, and in that instant, neither of them could contain the joy overflowing from their hearts.
Hey.